Hey everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make 4 different cards using the same stencil combined with the Floral Snowflakes stamp set. Okay, I'm going to use the mandala stencil from Stencil Pack 2 card fronts along with the Floral Snowflakes and then my sentiment from For All Occasions. All right, so I'm using a variety of blues. And this first one is Bluebird, and I'm going to cut it at 4 by 5 1/4, and all of my backgrounds are going to be 4 by 5 1/4 so that I can leave a border around the edges. I'll be making A2 cards for all 4 of them. Then I'm going to bring in my Close to My Heart splat mat. So I'm going to use a bunch of different mixed media. So this first background, I'm going to blend some Oxide inks on it, and then I'll be stenciling the Stickles glitter paste over it. So the Stickles is in Moondust. All right, so I'm going to start out by blending some oxides. So I've got Blueprint Sketch and Chip Sapphire, and then I'll be using black soot. Okay, so just gonna blend the center of it. It's going to be light, and then it's going to blend out to dark around the edges. Okay, so I'm just going to go back and forth with the inks so I have a nice wash. And then I'll go in with that black soot to make that Chip Sapphire a really deep dark navy color. So you just keep going around and blending until you like what you see. Just going to keep going back and forth. And I think I like that. Okay, so now I'm going to bring my spritz box in, and I'm going to spritz my stencil with some pixie spray. This is a low-tack adhesive. And just make my stencil just a little bit sticky, and adhesives have a hard time sticking to oxide. So in addition to this, I'm going to adhere my stencil down with some purple tape just to make sure it doesn't move. All right, so now I'm bringing in the Moondust Stickles. It's a iridescent glitter paste, and I'm going to spread this around with my spatula, nice and thick. Make sure that it's all worked into all of those tiny little openings of the stencil. So this takes a while, and you have to really work it around because the openings are tiny. If you're working with a stencil that has large openings, the process goes a little bit quicker. But I really want to make sure that all of this glitter paste gets into all of those openings. So I'm really working it around. Get it completely covered. And you can go as thick or thin as you like. And in this case, I wanted a really thick coating. You can scrape it some more to get it thinner if you wish. All right. Now we're ready for the reveal. So I'm going to peel everything off. And then we'll remove the stencil. And ta-da, look at that. It's beautiful. Okay, make sure you wash your stencil right away because that stuff sets up and it doesn't budge afterwards. All right, I'm bringing my Misty in. I have my large snowflake stamp loaded in there, and I'm using Bluebird cardstock, and then I'm going to ink it up with sapphire ink. And I'm using my Misty because I'm going to double stamp. So I'm going to first stamp my snowflake down in sapphire. Get that down. I'm using a Chucky tool to make sure I get even pressure in my Misty. And then I'll get my stamp cleaned up, and then I'm going to ink it up again using Versamark, because I'm going to heat emboss over my stamp. So I'm going to stamp again in the exact same spot with Versamark ink. And we'll get the misty out of the way, and then I'm going to sprinkle it with some Nuvo Shimmering Pearl embossing powder. And it heats up and it goes clear, but it's shimmery and glittery and sparkly and just awesome. So you'll be able to see the sapphire ink or whatever ink you use below it. It just gives it a little extra shimmer and shine. All right, so we'll heat this up and melt it. And this is the same process for all the snowflakes that I use. All right, so now I'm going to bring in some sapphire cardstock and just trim off an inch. And I'm going to stamp my sentiment. All right, so I have the Merry Christmas sentiment loaded onto my block, and I'm going to use White Daisy pigment ink, and I'm hitting my cardstock with some anti-static powder, and then I'll stamp the Merry Christmas in White Daisy. And because this is pigment and it takes a long time to dry, I'm going to hit it with some white embossing powder, and then we'll heat that up and set it so it won't smudge. It just makes that white brighter and bolder. Okay, so we'll trim this up, and I'm not using any specific measurements. I'm just going to trim around and tighten up that sentiment around the Merry Christmas so that I can dovetail each end and make a banner. So we'll get that trimmed up. And so this is the same process for all of the cards. So I'll just take you through the first one, and it's the same thing for all of them. Okay, so we have that trimmed up, and then I'll bring in my microchip scissors, and you just snip in the center vertically, and then take each corner to meet that snip. And then you have your nice little dovetailed banner. Okay. All right, and then I'll bring my Big Shot in, and we'll cut out that snowflake with the coordinating thin cut. All right. So I'm taking you through the sentiment and the snowflake on the first card, and then we'll skip ahead and I'll show you how I did all the backgrounds for the other cards. All right, so now I have my snowflake cut out, and you have to let the glitter gel dry for 24 hours. So this is the next day, and my background is ready to start building a card. So I have my card base out, and then I'll just tack down my background with a lot of Tombow tape runner. It kind of bends when it dries, so I really want to make sure this flattens out. So I'm using a ton of tape runner to get this to stick. And then I have my nice little white border around the edges. Okay, so now I have my cutout snowflake and my Merry Christmas banner. And I'm going to add the snowflake with some thin foam tape right in the center. And then over that, I'm going to add my banner. But before I add it, I'm going to trace around the edges and just kind of doodle a border using these Marvu Cheetah gel pens in white to give it a little more definition. Okay, and then we'll pop that with thin foam tape as well. And then for a little added extra bling, these are some iridescent gems from Pink Fresh Studios. And I'm just going to glue a few of these gems all around the edges of the snowflake, just for some added pop and bling. All right. Okay, and there's my finished card. I'll have some close-ups. Love that glitter gel. So pretty. All right, now we can do our next background. So I've got some white cardstock and I'm going to cut this down to 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to do some oxide blending with this one as well. So I have a variety of blues. And I'm just going to go from a lighter blue in the center and blend out to a darker blue. So I've sped this up pretty quickly. I hope it doesn't make you dizzy. So I'm just going to go back and forth with a bunch of different blues on this panel. So we'll do kind of an ombre wash from the center out. So we'll get all those blended together. And the great thing about oxides is that if you go too dark, you can go back in with a lighter color and lighten it up if you wish. And you'll see me do that in a second. Kind of got a little too dark, I thought. So we'll just keep blending out to the darker colors. And then I came in with some lighter color and made it a little bit lighter in the center. Get all that blended together. Okay. Almost there. And just keep blending until you're happy with the results. That's the fun thing about oxides. Okay, now we're ready to stencil. So I'm going to lay my stencil down and secure it with purple tape. And then I'm going to use some Gina K glitz glitter gel with this one in brilliant blue. It's just a beautiful bright blue color with lots of chunks of glitter in it. So we'll get that spread around and worked into the stencil. And again, it takes a little bit to get it all worked into all those little tiny openings, but it's worth the effort because the result is just wow. I love the bright blue, this color. So I'm just going to work it all in. So for all 4 of these cards, I'm going to focus on the backgrounds. I'll show you how I did the backgrounds. And then the snowflake and the sentiment are going to be the similar. Keep the designs relatively simple just so that I can focus on this mandala stenciled image. Get all of that worked in. Okay. All right, now we're ready for the reveal. And there it is. And again, wash up quickly because this stuff just sticks. So, okay, so now it's the next day. I've let it set up and dry, and we can start building the card. Okay, so I'm going to get my background down with Tombow. And again, I'm using a ton of it because when it dries, it kind of it bows and sometimes buckles a bit. So you want it to lay down on your card front flat. So use lots of adhesive. So we'll get that down and then we'll pop the snowflake. So this snowflake, it's the same process as the last one, but I did it on the light side of Carolina. So we'll get that down with some thin foam tape, and then we'll add our sentiment with thin foam tape. And I thought that was enough. So I'll have some close-up shots in a second. There's my card. So pretty. Look at that brilliant blue glitter and shine. So pretty. Okay, next card. All right, I'm going to use the light side of Carolina, and I'm going to lay my stencil down on top of it, and then I'm going to blend some Oxide sprays on this one. So the first one is Blueprint Sketch, and it's a spritz spray, so I'm just going to spray that. And then I'm going to go over it with some sparkle spray from Tsukineko. Give that a couple of spritz. Pretty easy. And then just lay some paper towel down on top of it to soak up all that excess. And then you can peel your stencil off. So cool. Look at that. All right. So now we can build our card. I've got all the components here, and I did my sentiment on White Daisy. Okay. So we'll get that glued down. And then we'll pop the snowflake again with thin foam tape and the sentiment as well. So this spritz spray kind of gives more of a watercolor sort of look. And then for a little added extra bling, I'm going to bring in some of these crystals from Pink Fresh Studios, and I'll scatter a whole bunch of those around just for some added pop of bling around the card. I'll have some close-up shots in a second. And there's my finished card. So pretty. So I'll make a list of all the supplies that I used with links in the description below. Okay, last card. I'm going to secure this down. And I'm going to do a blend of oxides directly through the stencil. Okay, so this technique, you kind of pounce it a little bit and just kind of pounce and twist and work that color in through the openings on the stencil. So again, I'm going to do a wash, light in the center and working out to dark. And I'll just keep going back and forth with all these colors and working them in through the openings. I'm going in with some black soot just to make that chip sapphire look like a deep, dark navy blue around the edges. All right, now we're ready for the reveal. Okay. All right, now we can build the card. First, I'm going to cut some of this thin craft foam because I want to pop that center panel up on my card. And I've embossed my snowflake in the new wild berry color. Thought that would pop a bit better on that blue background. And then I decided to bring in some ballerina glitter paper to make a border around the edges. So put the ballerina down. And then I'll pop that panel on the craft foam. I'm using the white Tombow glue. It works well with craft foam. We'll get that glue down. And then I'll add the snowflake in the center. And then I'll pop the Merry Christmas Wasn't sure which direction I wanted to do my snowflake. That way it's a little bit different than the others. And then we'll pop that Merry Christmas. And add a little more bling, of course. All right. So all of these supplies are currently available in my online store with the exception of a couple other brands, and I'll list them in the description. And then for the last step, I'm going to add some of these iridescent snowflake sequins and some extra bling around my snowflake. Super cute. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Thanks for taking time to watch my video today. Thanks for watching.